Yeah, the top of the table team, Arsenal, drew to bottom of the table team, Wolves. I'm sure Manchester City are happy to see this result as Arsenal are still within reach. They're just 5 points ahead in the race. Now let's take a listen to what Mikel Arteta had to say after this one about the mentality of his team.
Any question, any criticize, any opinion, you have to take it on the chin today. I mean, that's it. Any hit, any bullet, take it, because we didn't perform at the level that is required. So anything that anybody says can be right because we didn't do what we had to do. And the way to do it is on that pitch on Sunday in a great opportunity that we had.
Are they strong enough to do that? Are they strong enough to come back?
We always done it, but you are as strong as to show it the next time you do it. To talk and say it here, it's simple, and we have to do it on the pitch.
Arsenal fans are starting to get more and more nervous that their team is going to bottle the league, and it's because of past trauma. Back in 2022-2023, Arsenal's largest lead was 8 points ahead. That was on April 7th of that year, but then they finished the season second, 5 points behind Manchester City. Then in 2023-24, Arsenal's largest lead, it was only 1 point. That was on May 10th of that year, and they finished second again, 2 points behind City. And now this year, Arsenal's largest lead was earlier this month with 9 points separating them and City, but that's now been closed down to 5 points. Tony, Arsenal's been one of the most balanced teams in Europe this season, and they fall to a Wolves side that is one of the worst that we've seen in Premier League history. I mean, what must the psyche of this Arsenal locker room be after that result yesterday?
It's a tough one, especially given the fact that you were 2-0 up. Right after an hour in this one, and we were sat in the room, the green room yesterday, and we were watching this game, and we were actually criticizing Wolves during the game, saying, "I can't believe this bottom of the table team wants to build out of the back, and they're playing out of their 6-yard box." And at 15 minutes later, we're like, "That's why you build out of the back," you know. And it was just a roller coaster, and I can't imagine what the emotions are right now for Arsenal fans. I personally still think Arsenal is going to win the title, right? But again, we talk about this as the best league in the world, right? We say this all the time. So when you're going to have some of these stumbles along the way, and it's going to happen. I think for Arsenal fans, it's just because the wait's been so long, right? And you're almost there. What are we at? Match day 28, 27-ish right now. So you're 75% there, and now all of a sudden you got a battle on your hands.
I think this is probably one of the first definitive years where they can say they're at least as good as Manchester City, if not better.
So why wouldn't there be pressure there?
But then this is the question mark I ask people. Why is there trauma? Because a lot of these players are new to this squad. They haven't inherited the 20 years. If you had been there for 10, 15 years, then okay, cool, fair enough. But you haven't inherited the trauma. You can't inherit somebody else's trauma. So yes, Arsenal as a club have a history of winning trophies. Yes, Arsenal as a club haven't won a Premier League in 2 decades. But at the same time, this is a fresh group of players, so they really shouldn't listen to the outside noise and should keep focused on what the agenda's been. The more they focus on that, shut out the noise outside, they'll be able to complete the objective because they have been the best team over 27 games so far. And that really should be the confidence they need in the final 10 games or so.
I mean, for me, for Arsenal, they've now, in the last 3 games, they've dropped points from winning positions. That's the way. They're not closing games out. And in a lot of Arsenal games, you're seeing they're making individual errors. There's unforced errors. It's that the play's been sloppy of late. But I think there's a bit of a misnomer, if you like, about yes, Manchester City are breathing down their necks. And the problem for Arsenal is this is not a vintage Manchester City side. So if I said to you over the last 5 games, what's the points difference that Arsenal have taken and Man City have taken? The way it's being phrased right now, you'd think that City have taken 15 points and Arsenal have taken 5. Man City have only taken 2 more points than Arsenal in the last 5 games. They're not flying. So Arsenal could have put their foot down, hit the pedal and accelerated away from Manchester City. The problem for them now is that it's now back in Manchester City's own hands. Win the game in hand, keep winning, and if they beat Arsenal, they'll win the title. So it is a thrilling title race. Arsenal are not out of it by a long, long way. And going back to what you were saying, JD, about pressure or what happened at previous decades at the club, I agree with that to an extent. But a lot of these players were there in the last couple of seasons when they came close and they came second. So there is an extra element, but it's down to them. If I was an Arsenal fan, I would be hugely buoyed by the way Mikel Arteta spoke there. That's the first time I've seen that. I thought he was pretty calm, pretty relaxed, if you like. Bear in mind, You know, they've dropped points yet again. You know, they could be sat there from the last 3 games with another 6 points, virtually home and hosed. And he's saying, you know, he's not downbeat. He said, all right, let's go again. We can't deny it. We're both Arsenal fans.
Well, I'm not an Arsenal fan. I'm an SC Dons fan. Yeah.
Do you think the fact that the next game is Tottenham away is a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's a great thing.
Why?
Because if you need a moment to galvanise your squad and to remind them as to what the title or the goal is, you need a derby. And a derby, all of a sudden, form goes out of the window, expectations go out of the window. What's relied on is, can you be more intense than your opposition on that day? Now, Spurs are also going into this with a new management, a new coaching style, so they're going through their own version of change. But a derby, especially a North London one, because of the proximity, because of what it means to the fans, if you can't get up for that, then I've got serious question marks on whether or not you're title material. But I would say, like, look at this squad, though. Really look at it. Don't look at Arsenal's history. Victor Gyökeres is a new signing. Nketiah is a new signing. David Raya wasn't there in terms of one of the title chases. Ramsdale was in goal for that period of time. Saliba and Gabriel were newer at that moment in time. And I remember the actual injury to Saliba derailing Arsenal in 22-23. So, and then I start breaking it down. Timber, Declan Rice should have a little bit of trauma, but he's grown as a leader. Martin Odegaard should have a little bit of trauma, but he's grown as a leader. So has Bukayo Saka. But at the same time, Zubimendi shouldn't be inheriting that trauma because you're a fresh player. So going to it exactly the way that you have been so far, 27 games, you're still top of the table. And Jeff made the best point. If this was a Manchester City team of previous years where they could go on a 10, 15 game winning streak and all of a sudden that gap starts closing really small, I would be like, there's a lot of pressure on Arsenal right now. But there isn't, because I watched Manchester City also throw away leads, i.e. your Tottenhams. So at this point, they've opened the door. They've allowed another team to come into the conversation. But it doesn't necessarily mean that team is going to be better than you when 38 games are done.
But how much of this is because it's Manchester City? Okay, it's not the Manchester City team maybe that we've seen. They've had some big, but we have seen them in a title race, as you mentioned, right? What were they, 11 points down at one point?
I always go back to the betting expression in terms of horse racing. They are course and distance. Course and distance. They've won on this course before, and they've won over this distance before. But to your point, you know, this is not a vintage Manchester City. They're going through a rebuild as well. They might have just been very smart in the window, but for me, the big thing will determine how this race goes now. Carabao Cup final. The psychological advantage for the winners of that, because there is realistically. Villa fans won't like me, but there's only 2 teams in the title race. But the psychological effect of who wins the Carabao Cup final has never been a bigger trophy.
Let's take a look, Jeff, at the panic meter for Arsenal right now. Their chances to win the title, it seems like there's been no hope lost yet on this Arsenal side. But no? JD sounds very positive, but your reaction tells me that you're feeling different.
I'm going... I mean, RIP is brutal, isn't it? I'm going to say work to do, because that's exactly what Mikel Arteta said after the game. And I was just thinking actually out loud, going back to that Tottenham conversation, JD, there's an element of, you know, when like a team is not necessarily doing well in the league and then they play in Europe, the players say it's a different competition. Arsenal players on Sunday, they won't be thinking about the league. They won't want to lose the derby.
100%.
So I think it takes their mind off of the league, the fact that they're playing a derby.
Yeah. It's a completely new energy. It's a completely new ferocity. Like, I've seen both teams be in great form when it comes to the derby, and then all of a sudden you go into the derby game and form goes out of the window. So at this moment, I would probably say to you, in terms of a panic meter, I still think they're so close. Like, you have to, if you were to ask Arsenal fans and Mikel Arteta before the season, at this point, if I said to you, we're 5 points clear, would you take it? 1,000% they would. They would have taken it because they're ahead. You have the points on the game on the board, and you've already played a certain amount of games. So,
what is this one here? I can't see.
I would say they're also so close. You just need to remind yourself as to what's the variables, what's the foundation that's got you this far. Are there holes in this Arsenal team? I think there's a hole in every team across Europe. But I would say that if they trust their fluidity, they have a lot of players that are going to be returning, a lot of impact players that can now help them. That's almost going to feel like new signings. Remind yourself it's a 10 game, it's a last sprint. Go around the corner, finish the season strong, and do what you need to do.
Problem is, it's a mental problem. It's not like they've got a huge number of players out injured. It's a mental thing. The errors we're talking about, the individual mistakes, the unforced errors. So that's That's a difficult thing to fix.
Sometimes that feels like the harder thing.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
100%.
The mental aspect, getting over the mental aspect as opposed to the physical aspect.
Thanks for watching this video from Morning Footy. For all news and insights regarding leagues around the world like EFL, Serie A, and all UEFA competitions, both men's and women's, don't forget to sign up for Paramount+.